Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be looking at small molecule inhibitors.
Small molecule inhibitors.
Yeah, these, microscopic little keys
Yeah.
that can fit into locks in our body. And these locks are like specific proteins that are involved in diseases.
Right.
And we're going to be using an article from SA Genie.
SA Genie.
Yeah, they make a lot of cool research tools, and they have this really great article that breaks down
It's a good article.
why these small molecule inhibitors are so important and why there's such a big deal in medicine these days.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, it's not just about fitting into locks.
Right.
The molecules can actually block or modify the function of those target proteins.
Ooh.
So you can imagine being able to shut down like a rogue protein
Yeah,
that's driving some disease process.
like a molecular off switch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the power of these small molecule inhibitors.
Wow. And the article really highlights how this is like a total game changer
Oh, yeah.
for medicine, especially compared to like traditional treatments. Right.
Where, sometimes it's like using a sledgehammer when you need a scalpel.
Exactly, like chemotherapy, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
It often affects healthy cells along with the cancerous ones,
Right,
which leads to those, really harsh side effects that we're all familiar with.
right.
Small molecule inhibitors offer a much more targeted approach.
So how does that actually work?
Well, one example is in cancer treatment,
Okay.
where these inhibitors can be designed to specifically block tyrosine kinases.
Tyrosine kinases.
Yeah.
Now, what are those?
So these enzymes are like signaling hubs in cells.
Okay.
They control crucial processes like growth and division.
Gotcha.
But in many cancers, these tyrosine kinases go haywire.
Oh.
They send constant signals for uncontrolled cell growth.
Oh, so it's like they're just constantly saying grow, grow, grow.
Exactly. Yeah, and by inhibiting these specific enzymes, we can disrupt those signals and halt that tumor progression.
So it's like cutting the communication lines
Yeah,
that are telling the cancer cells to multiply.
exactly.
That's amazing. It's very cool.
And something else that I thought was really cool from the article is that they talk about how these inhibitors are often taken orally,
Oh, yeah.
which is a huge plus for anybody who hates needles,
Huge plus.
me included.
Yeah, oral bioavailability is a big advantage for patients in terms of convenience and compliance.
For sure.
It's much easier to take a pill than to get an injection.
Absolutely.
Plus, it allows for more consistent drug levels in the body,
Okay.
which is really crucial for managing chronic conditions
Yeah.
where you need that steady therapeutic effect.
You got to keep those molecular keys in circulation.
Keep them in circulation.
Yeah. And speaking of access, I was really interested by the fact that some of these inhibitors can even get past the blood-brain barrier.
The blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, isn't that like a major challenge?
It's a huge challenge for drug delivery.
Yeah.
The blood-brain barrier is incredibly selective
Yeah,
about what it lets into the brain.
like a nightclub bouncer.
Right. And it's made treating conditions like Alzheimer's and brain tumors very difficult.
Yeah.
But because of their smaller size
Okay.
and their specific chemical properties,
Gotcha.
some small molecule inhibitors can actually slip through those defenses.
So they're like tiny secret agents
Tiny secret agent.
on a mission to protect the brain.
Yeah.
That's so cool. But I imagine like designing these molecular keys can't be easy.
It's not.
What goes into that process?
Well, it's a really remarkable blend of like scientific ingenuity
Yeah.
and meticulous experimentation.
Right.
Scientists use a process called structure-activity relationship studies, or SAR for short.
SAR.
Yeah, and they essentially just tweak the structure of these inhibitors.
Okay.
They add or remove specific atoms, and then they analyze how those changes affect the inhibitor's ability to bind to its target protein.
So it's like trial and error on a molecular level.
Kinda, yeah.
Wow.
It's all about optimizing the inhibitor's shape, its size, and its chemical properties
Okay.
to create the most effective key for that specific lock.
I like that analogy a lot. And it's not just about effectiveness. Scientists are also working to minimize potential side effects.
Of course you want the key to fit perfectly
Right.
without triggering any unwanted alarms in the body.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want that.
No.
But even with this precise targeting, there's always the concern of cost, right?
Yes.
Especially when it comes to new treatments.
Yeah, that's where small molecule inhibitors have another advantage.
Okay.
They're typically less expensive to produce than biologics.
Okay. So reminding, what are biologics again?
Biologics are larger, more complex molecules
Okay.
that are often derived from living organisms.
Gotcha.
like monoclonal antibodies, for example.
Right, right.
They require much more sophisticated manufacturing processes,
Okay.
which really drives up those costs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But small molecule inhibitors can be synthesized
Okay.
using well-established chemical methods,
Gotcha.
so they're much more affordable to produce.
That's really good to hear. More accessible treatments are a win for everyone. And speaking of accessibility, I was curious about the development timeline.
Yeah.
If these molecules are simpler and cheaper to produce, does that mean that they're approved faster?
You've hit on a key point.
Okay.
Because of those well-defined chemical synthesis processes
Okay.
and our ability to use high-throughput screening techniques,
Right.
the development cycle for small molecule inhibitors can be significantly shorter.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead, can you explain a little bit more about those high-throughput screening techniques?
Sure. So imagine a massive laboratory
Okay.
where thousands, even millions of potential inhibitors are tested simultaneously
Yeah.
for their ability to bind to the target protein.
Okay.
It's like speed dating for molecules.
I love that.
These automated systems can dramatically accelerate
Wow.
the process of identifying promising drug candidates.
So it's like casting a really wide net
Wide net.
to find those perfect molecular matches.
Exactly.
And that means potentially getting new therapies to patients faster.
Much faster.
This is all so incredibly exciting.
It is.
And we've only just scratched the surface here.
We've just started.
There's so much more to explore.
There is.
And all of those challenges that are involved in the development of small molecule inhibitors,
Right.
those are exactly what we're going to delve into next.
Awesome.
So stick with us as we continue this deep dive into the fascinating world of small molecule inhibitors.
We were talking about those high throughput screening techniques.
Right.
And faster approval processes.
Right.
And that brings us to the impact of these inhibitors on real-world diseases.
You mean like those tyrosine kinases we were talking about?
Exactly. How are those inhibitors actually being used
Yeah.
in cancer treatment today?
Yeah.
Well, one of the earliest success stories with small molecule inhibitors
Okay.
was the development of imatinib,
Imatinib.
also known as Gleevec,
Gleevec.
for the treatment of chronic myeloid leukemia, or CML.
Okay.
And this was a game changer.
Okay.
Before Gleevec,
Yeah.
CML was often a fatal diagnosis. Now, many patients with CML
Yeah.
can live long, healthy lives
Yeah.
thanks to this targeted therapy.
That's an incredible example of how these tiny molecules can
Yeah.
have such a monumental impact.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I remember reading that tyrosine kinase inhibitors are being explored for other types of cancer as well.
Absolutely.
Like what?
They're being investigated in lung cancer, breast cancer,
Okay.
several other cancers where specific tyrosine kinases
Okay.
play a role in tumor growth and spread.
Gotcha.
And it's not just cancer.
Oh, right.
Small molecule inhibitors are showing promise in other areas as well, like viral infections.
Oh, right. The article mentioned that.
Yes.
How are they working against viruses?
So even though viruses are very different from our own cells,
Yeah.
they still rely on certain proteins
Okay.
to replicate and spread within our bodies.
Gotcha.
And small molecule inhibitors can actually target those viral proteins,
Okay.
essentially jamming the machinery they need
Oh, wow.
to make more copies of themselves.
So it's like throwing a wrench into the virus's assembly line.
Exactly.
That's so clever.
It is pretty cool.
Are there specific viral infections where these inhibitors are showing particular promise?
Definitely. HIV and hepatitis C are two prime examples.
Okay.
Small molecule inhibitors have been instrumental
Okay.
in developing really effective antiviral therapies for these diseases,
Wow.
helping to control those viral loads and prevent complications.
That's amazing. It sounds like small molecule inhibitors are becoming like a key weapon in our arsenal
Oh, yeah.
against a wide range of diseases.
Absolutely.
But are there any downsides?
Well,
I mean, no treatment is perfect, right?
you're right. No treatment is perfect.
Yeah.
And while these inhibitors are designed to be highly specific,
Right.
there's always a chance they can interact with other proteins in the body,
Okay.
potentially leading to side effects.
So it's like those off-target effects that
Exactly.
you hear about with some medications.
It's like trying to hit a bullseye. But sometimes the arrow veers off course a little bit.
Right.
The severity of those side effects
Yeah.
can vary depending on the specific inhibitor
Okay.
and the individual patient, of course.
Right.
What kind of side effects are we talking about?
Yeah, like what are we talking about?
And common ones
Yeah.
can include things like nausea, fatigue, skin rashes, digestive issues.
Okay.
More serious side effects can occur,
Right.
but those are typically much less frequent.
Gotcha.
And, of
Yeah.
course, researchers are constantly working to develop
Yeah.
inhibitors with even better safety profiles.
That makes sense. So it's about weighing the benefits against those risks,
Exactly.
just like with any medical treatment.
Always.
So it sounds like a constant process of refinement and improvement.
It is.
But even with the potential for side effects,
Yeah.
it sounds like the overall impact of small molecule inhibitors
Oh, yeah.
is still pretty remarkable.
It is, and the research is continuing to evolve at an incredible pace.
That's great.
Scientists are not only developing new inhibitors for existing targets,
Right.
but they're also exploring ways to target those previously undruggable proteins.
The undruggable proteins.
Yeah.
What makes them so challenging?
Well, it's like trying to design a key for a lock that doesn't have a keyhole.
Oh, wow.
Some proteins just lack those well-defined binding pockets
Okay.
that small molecules typically latch onto,
Gotcha.
and other proteins are constantly changing shape,
Oh, wow.
which makes it really hard to create an inhibitor
Yeah.
that can effectively interact with them.
So it's like trying to hit a moving target,
Exactly.
but on a molecular scale.
On a molecular scale.
That's incredible. So what are researchers doing to overcome these obstacles?
Well, one approach is to focus on disrupting protein-protein interaction.
Protein interaction.
Yeah, so instead of targeting the undruggable protein itself,
Okay.
scientists are looking for ways to block its interactions with other proteins
Gotcha.
that are crucial for its function.
So it's like cutting off its supply lines.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. And I imagine there's another big challenge on the horizon.
Yes.
Drug resistance.
Drug resistance.
We talked about how cancer cells can evolve
Right.
to kind of evade these inhibitors.
Drug resistance is a significant hurdle
Yeah,
in many areas of medicine.
right.
And small molecule inhibitors are no exception.
Of course.
But researchers are working on strategies
Okay.
to try to anticipate and combat those resistance mechanisms.
So how do they do that?
Well, one approach is to combine different inhibitors
Okay.
that target multiple pathways involved in the disease process.
So it's like hitting the disease from multiple angles at the same time makes it
Thank you.
harder to develop resistance.
Exactly.
Clever.
Another strategy is to develop inhibitors that target those specific mechanisms of resistance
Oh, okay.
that emerge.
So you're like one step ahead.
It's like a chess game,
Yeah,
constantly adapting our moves based on the opponent's strategy.
that's a great analogy. It sounds like an incredibly dynamic and evolving field.
It really is.
Full of challenges,
Yeah.
but also a lot of opportunity.
A lot of opportunity.
It's amazing to think about the level of ingenuity and collaboration
Oh, yeah.
that's involved in this type of research.
It's amazing what's happening in these labs.
And it's remarkable to think about the impact that these tiny molecules
Yeah.
are having on people's lives.
Absolutely. That's a perfect segue to our next point.
Okay.
We've been talking about the science,
Right.
but it's important to remember the human stories
Yeah.
behind these advancements.
Right. We've been talking so much about the science, but it's important to remember that human impact.
The human impact.
Yeah, like these aren't just abstract concepts we're talking about. They're really changing people's lives.
Absolutely. Like imagine the relief of
Yeah.
a patient with CML
Right.
who, thanks to imatinib, is now living a life
Wow.
they never thought possible.
Yeah.
Or someone with Hep C
Right.
whose viral load is undetectable because of these therapies. These stories are really the driving force behind all of this research.
It's true, and it makes you realize that behind all the, the complex molecular pathways and all the scientific jargon,
And the jargon.
there are real people whose lives are being totally transformed by these advancements.
Absolutely. And that brings up another important point.
What's that?
Access.
Access.
We've talked about how small molecule inhibitors are less expensive to produce,
Right.
but there's still a lot of work to be done
Yeah.
to ensure that these treatments are available to everyone
Right.
who needs them, regardless of their location or socioeconomic status.
That's a really important point. We can develop these amazing treatments, but if they're not accessible to everyone,
Right.
then we haven't really succeeded, have we?
Exactly. It's a complex issue,
Yeah.
and it needs multifaceted solutions.
Right.
We need to continue advocating for policies that promote equitable access to healthcare.
Yes.
We need to support research
Yeah.
into more cost-effective manufacturing processes.
Right.
And we need to work towards strengthening healthcare infrastructure in underserved communities.
It's really a call to action
It is
for all of us.
for all of us.
Scientists, policymakers, healthcare providers,
Yeah.
even patients themselves.
Everyone.
We need to work together to address these challenges
We do.
and make sure that these groundbreaking therapies reach everyone
Everyone.
who can benefit from them.
That's so important.
Well, it's been so fascinating learning about all this.
It has.
I'm really struck by the ingenuity
Oh, yeah.
behind these small molecule inhibitors. The fact that we can design these molecules
It's amazing.
to interact with such precision,
I mean,
targeting these specific proteins that are involved in these disease processes.
it's mind-blowing.
It really is. It's a testament to, human innovation
Yeah.
and our understanding of how life really works.
And it's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, it's like we're unlocking the secrets of our own biology and using that knowledge to develop these therapies. That, years ago would have been unimaginable.
Absolutely.
Who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, what's next?
As our understanding grows, just imagine the possibilities
Oh, yeah.
for even more targeted and effective treatments.
It's exciting.
It really is. So to wrap up this deep dive, I have a question for all of you listening.
Okay, no question.
Given the incredible versatility
Yeah.
and potential of small molecule inhibitors, what future applications can you imagine?
That's a good question.
Maybe in areas that we haven't even talked about today.
Yeah, think about it.
And for those of you who want to explore this topic further,
Yeah.
be sure to check out the references that are mentioned in that Assay Genie article.
It's a great article.
It's a really good place to start
It is.
for your own deep dive.
Your own deep dive.
So a huge thank you to all of you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of small molecule inhibitors. We'll see you next time for another fascinating deep dive.